Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for tuning in. This is my very first video for 2018, so I guess it's only right for me to say Happy New Year. It's going to be a very good year. I can feel it in my bones. To me, I've decided it's going to be a year of personal growth. It's going to be a year of me just doing me, slaying in my own lane, and yeah, making shit happen. I'm very excited about all of the content I have planned for this channel this year, so stay tuned, stay watching, tell a friend to tell a friend, because it's going to be lit. Anyway, my very first video is about just tips and tricks on how to purchase the right hair extensions, or rather authentic hair extensions. More and more women are using hair extensions nowadays, and this stuff are not cheap, hey. It's quite a big investment to make, so you want to make sure that you do a little bit of homework and just make sure that you're putting your money in the right place and making the right investment, because it is quite an investment for the amount of money we pay for these things. So yeah, let's get right into it, guys. The first and most important tip for me is really just knowing where your hair extensions come from. Just read up on the origin of hair extensions. A lot of retailers are selling Peruvian hair, Malaysian hair, Brazilian hair, and all of these fancy names nowadays, and some of these countries don't even have a hair growing culture. Majority of hair really comes from India, where millions of Hindu women offer their hair in a religious ritual every year at the temples. In the past, it was as simple as hair collectors would come, take the hair, and they would sell it in key markets such as Brazil, the United States, Italy, and China. Brazil was really one of the very first countries to commercialize Indian hair, but they sold it as Brazilian hair, so hence the popularity of Brazilian hair. But Brazil doesn't really have a hair growing culture. Nowadays, you find countries in Southeast Asia that have a hair growing culture. So Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, all of those places, they have a hair growing culture. So hair collectors also go and collect hair from these countries. Due to a growing demand of hair extensions, and particularly more affordable hair extensions, the wholesalers in countries like China have found more creative ways to meet the demand, and one of those ways is collecting dead hair from salons in India, and then they would take that hair, they would sort it, bath it in acid, and then they'll coat it with silicone just to make it look soft and silky. In some cases, they'll mix that hair with synthetic hair or animal hair, and then they'll sell it off as virgin hair. The hair industry is not really regulated much, so they get away with it. They can tell you fake hair and call it virgin hair. They don't get into trouble for that. And they've also started calling this hair fancy names like Peruvian hair, Malaysian hair, Brazilian hair, and what have you. They'll invent all of these names just as a marketing tactic to make sure that they sell this dead hair that they collect. So just be careful when you're buying hair extensions. When you start hearing names like Peruvian, Brazilian, Malaysian, just keep an open eye, because it might actually be fake hair. You do find retailers who prefer to sell real hair extensions as Brazilian hair or Peruvian hair, just because that's what sells. But in those cases, you can just apply the rest of the tips and tricks that I'm going to give you to kind of make out whether it's real hair or not. The hair industry is really complex, and even with these tips and tricks, it's still possible for you to buy the wrong type of hair extensions. It is what it is, but just make sure that you look out for certain things and that you make the right purchase. I personally prefer either Indian Remy hair, which I know is much more expensive, but I prefer to make that investment, and I also prefer Southeast Asian hair, just because I know that that's where most hair comes from, and that I'm more likely to get authentic hair from those places. That's also the type of hair extensions that I sell, because I've personally been to Southeast Asia, and I've personally met suppliers and seen hair extensions, and as somebody that sells hair extensions, I sort of know what to look out for. But I always advise people to buy either Cambodian, Vietnamese, or anything from Southeast Asia, or Indian Remy hair. The second tip is around smell. If you're purchasing hair extensions and it smells like corn chip or factory, or like it has that factory or chemical smell to it, then it's most likely not 100% human hair. Remember I said that this dead hair is collected and bathed in acid and coated with silicone, all those chemicals tend to have this strong pungent smell that's very hard to get rid of. So just look out for that smell, and it should be a good indicator of whether it's real hair or not. Real hair will not have that factory-like acidy chemical smell to it. The third thing to look out for is price. If it's too cheap, then it probably isn't 100% authentic virgin hair. I mean, if you're paying between 400 to 500 rand for an 18-inch bundle, that should be a red flag for you, and then you can maybe start looking out for the other cues that I'm giving you, like for example the smell. It takes a minimum of 4 years for one woman to grow her hair to a point where it can be cut off and sold. They're not going to sell you real 100% real hair for that price. But you also need to be careful that some retailers do know that you look out for price, and they don't obviously have a problem selling fake hair for a high price, just to make sure that you don't, you're not suspicious. So just make sure that you look out for multiple cues instead of just looking at price. But price can be a very good indicator as well. My fourth tip is to look out for real hair cues in hair extensions. And by real hair cues, I mean stuff like split ends, a natural shine to the hair. I'm going to try and show you guys here now. Real hair will have like this natural shine to it. Because it's like it's healthy and its cuticles are still intact, which is the other thing to look out for, to make sure that your hair extensions still have cuticles intact. Now cuticles are not something you can just see with the eyes, you're going to have to feel it, which takes me to my fifth point, or my fifth tip, which is to perform a cuticle test. Okay? Cuticles are downward scale like things that form a part of your hair, a hair strand. So if you're looking at hair extensions under a microscope, it would have cuticles like this. This is how it would look. I'm just going to show you guys a picture of it because I don't know how to explain it. This is how cuticles look like. To perform a cuticle test, you would have to run your finger down a little string of hair. So just take like a small string, a little bit of hair, then use your thumb and your index finger to slide it down the hair like that. If you were going to slide it down that way, it should be smooth, right? Because cuticles are downward scales. But if you were to do the same movement going in the opposite direction, going that way, there should be a bit of friction. And you can see this, that there's friction just by how this hair is tangling. Okay, so let's recap that. Should be smooth going down, and there should be a little bit of friction going in the opposite direction. Because remember, cuticles are downward scales, so if you're going that way you shouldn't feel it, but if you're going upwards there should be a bit of friction. Think about it as, okay, this is the simplest example I can give you. Think about it as a fish. You know, a fish has scales. If you touch a fish scales going down that way, it's smooth. But if you were to do the same thing going up, there'll be a bit of friction. It's the same with cuticles. So when you perform that test and the hair is going smooth both ways, then it's been coated with silicone. It doesn't have its cuticles intact, hence it's been coated with silicone. So it's not 100% authentic virgin hair. I hope I'm making sense. It's quite a lot to take in, but yeah. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comment box below if anything is unclear. Tip number 6 is to perform a shedding test. Okay, and shedding has less to do with whether the hair is real or not, and more to do with how the weft is constructed, or how the bundle is constructed. A strong weft means that the hair will not shed easily. Okay, so to perform a shedding test, you just run your hand down the entire length of the hair, like I'm doing now. And you just pull slightly towards the end, and there should be no hair coming left in your hand. Okay, so just do that again, and no hair coming. 1 to 2 strands is still okay, because hair will shed eventually. You will get one or two strands falling off now and then. That's absolutely normal, but more than that, it will just be a bad investment, and your hair will probably not last you too long. The next step is more about just knowing about hair extension textures, and this is more of a nice to know. It's not like a crucial fact that you need to look out for, but it helps to understand that hair extension textures are not natural. Okay, so when hair is too uniform, like this pattern is too uniform for it to be somebody's natural hair, this means that this hair was straight and it's been steamed into curly, or it would be steamed into deep curly or loose curl or body wave or whatever. All of those are steamed textures. What that means is that the texture you buy the hair in should be the texture you use it in. So if you start straightening curly hair, it's going to become straight at some stage. So it just helps to understand that if you're buying curly hair like this, just use it as curly, put curl activator on it. Don't try to straighten it and use it straight and curl. It's just not going to work because it's a steam texture. It will not last if you keep straightening it. Okay, so like I said, it's a nice to know, but it also just helps your hair extensions last longer. Tip number 8 is to perform a bleach test, and this is something you'll probably have to do after you've purchased the hair extension. So if it turns out to go south, then there's nothing you can do, but at least you'll know which retailer not to go back to, so do it anyway. Real hair will take color in properly, and what I mean will take color in is like it will take in the dye. Okay, fake hair will probably only lift up to 3 shades and then it will stop. It's not going to lift more than that, and by lift I mean it's going to go, it can go from like a black to maybe like a coppery something like this, a copper blonde, but it will not lift beyond that. In some cases you'll find a bundle that is mixed with synthetic hair. Some of the synthetic hair will not even dye, it will just remain black. So that's an indication of hair that has been mixed with fake hair. Real hair extensions will lift up to like as many colors as you want it to like even like your whitest blonde, but you definitely have to do it the right way. You can't just bleach it and expect it to perform miracles because it's real hair. I mean, even on your own natural hair, it doesn't work like that. So just make sure that if you're gonna color in your hair extensions, that you take it to a professional. But yeah, fake hair will not really take color properly. I've dyed fake hair before that went from black to like a pink. I don't even know if it's a pink. It's like it went to like kind of like a off pink color, and then the hair just sort of tangled and never went back. So if something like that were to happen, then you already know that the hair isn't 100%. Tip number 9 is really just about making sure that you're getting the correct length and weight of hair that you paid for. Okay. Each bundle of hair is about 100 grams in weight. So if you put it on a scale, it should weigh about between 99 and 100 grams. The longer the hair, the length of the hair, the smaller the bundle will be, but that makes sense. And the way you measure the length of your hair is by, for example, stretching it out. Okay? If you were buying this bundle of curly hair and you were told that it's 10 inch, you'd have to stretch out the bundle on a ruler to see if it really is 10 inch. So it might look shorter, but then you need to stretch it out to make sure that it's the correct length. That's how you would measure a hair that's textured. The straight hair, it's pretty straightforward. You just take this and put it on a ruler, and if it says 18 inch, it should be 18 inch. Yeah, it's as simple as that. The last tip is a little extra, I must admit, and also not something you can do like in a store unless you want to burn it down, is to perform a burn test on the hair. Real hair will burn like real hair, like your own hair. It burns really quickly and burns into dusty ash. Fake hair will burn like plastic. Okay, and that's, I mean, if you've ever used braids before, you know how fake hair burns like plastic, and real hair just burns like real hair. This is unfortunately a test you're gonna have to do at home, and like I said, if it turns out that it's not real hair, it's still money down the drain. You can't really take it back. Take a string of hair, small string of hair, not a lot, because I mean this is money here. You don't want to burn it all down. And then you take a lighter or whatever form of fire you have, put it on. You see that burns really quickly. And then you get this burns into ashes. There we go. So this is definitely real hair. Yeah. I almost burned my hands there, but the things I do for you guys. The burning test is really one of the best ways to see whether your hair is 100% or not, because I think retailers and wholesalers have kind of found ways around all of the other tips and tricks. Like for example, when I set the price, they'll still put the price up high because they know that you're looking out for price, even though they know it's not 100% hair. So it's one of the most authentic ways of really making sure that your hair is 100%. So those are my top 10 tips and tricks on you know, how to purchase authentic virgin hair. But before I go, I just want to say that it's absolutely fine for you to purchase non-virgin hair if that's what your pocket can afford. But when you do that, just make sure that you take extra care of the hair to make sure that it doesn't tangle and it doesn't end up matting. And that will just take a bit of extra work from your part. So just make sure that you buy the necessary oils to put on it. Make sure that you style it often to make sure that it doesn't tangle. Yeah, I mean, that type of hair can last to some extent. It just also boils down to how you take care of it. And you'll only be able to know that you need to take extra care of it if you know exactly what you're buying. So still perform these tips and tricks that I've given you today, but then at the end of the day, just know that if it isn't real hair, you have to put in a bit of extra work to take proper care of it and still make sure it looks somewhat okay. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I hope you learned anything from it, and I'm excited, like I said, about all of the content I have for this channel this year. So please, 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 if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell next to it to make sure that you get notified every time I upload a video. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!